So, Dan, when you hear the phrase, I got back up, what does it make you think and feel?
I feel that it means, well, whatever happens in our lives, sometimes we cannot influence, like what happened, right? So we have this feeling that we have a control, and maybe sometimes we do, but very often it's what happens to us, right? And then we can only deal with how we feel about it, and how to deal with consequences, right? So when I hear "I'll get back up," I feel like something happens which we perceive in a way that is negative, or damaging, or disastrous, right? And then how do we deal with that situation, first mentally ourselves, and then maybe also externally with our behavior, right? So I think that's what comes to mind when you ask the question.
How we react to situations, especially ones that are completely out of our control. It's our reactions, because realistically, I think in life, one of the only things we can control, because there's not a lot, one of the only things we can control is the way we react to something. So what I want to do now is I want you to take us back to the beginning of your story, and obviously we will discuss your book The Cave a bit later, but I want you to take everybody back to the beginning of your story, which has led you to who you are today.
Right. Uh, Well, starting from the beginning, I mean, I was born in, socialist Czechoslovakia. It's in a very different world than today, right? So, and I spent the first 18 years of my life in that kind of regime, right? And there were some specifics, but maybe let's not get into that. But what I think was my childhood was very, uh, I would say, very pleasant. I didn't have any big surprises, anything. Like the family was nice, and we had our own challenges, but I think it was not like big trauma or anything. So I think my life kind of developed in a certain way, and I was also always looking for some adventure. That would be kind of one trait that let's go to the mountains, or let's do some crazy stuff. Not necessarily like jumping, from the plane in a parachute. Yes, I did that too, but but on my own, right? But looking for adventure, right? And I think when we get to the story which actually led to the book, right, is it was in 2002, and I was kind of avid scuba diver. We had a scuba diving club in Prague, and we were a group of friends, and we were diving in quarries and rivers and dams primarily in Czech Republic, but also in other countries surrounding that, and the closest sea is Mediterranean in Croatia. So we've been as much as we could going to Croatia and scuba dive there as well. And that was also the trip which we took. So with a group of friends, and we all knew each other. We basically went on a sailing trip to Croatia. Our friend, captain and owner of the small sailing boat, have all the equipment, for scuba diving. So we were all kind of excited to go to this scuba trip. It was not our first trip on that, sailing boat, and in that kind of area of Croatia. And backstory could be that I really had only this 1 week, because back then I was a member of the board of multinational company in Czech and Slovak republics, and so I was kind of busy. Excuse me. Busy with work, so I had this 1 week of holiday, which somehow I could squeeze in of the busy life, and convincing my boss that it's the right thing to do, which never kind of it is anyway. So here we go, and then so we go to Croatia, everybody excited, and then uh, sailing around the area of Cornati and Split, and then scuba diving, eating, talking. It was actually it was a boys' trip, even though that's not necessarily was the case. So there were all sorts of people in the club, but this time it just so happened that we were all male on the boat, and out of the group of seven, I mean, there were like six divers, and then one person was my friend who, and this is kind of important for the later. I mean, he is not a diver. He never do. I mean, whenever he says that, whenever he gets into shower, his ears hurt. So he's not a diver, but he loves sailing, and we had one free spot on the boat. So like last minute, I kind of convinced him, okay, change everything, change your plans, cancel meetings and join us. So he joined us, and so we were sailing, we were diving, eating good food, and kind of enjoying life. And where are we going next in terms of sailing? Our captain was explaining, okay, here is not many people, and there is a bay where we can anchor and go for a dive and also stay the night. It's kind of protected bay. Okay, fine. And somebody spotted on the chart like a circle. Imagine there's a nautical chart, but then there is a circle made by pencil. Like somebody just draw it there, and then we say what it is, and the captain says, well, a couple of weeks ago we were there with another group, and we were only snorkeling. There was no scuba divers, and we found like a hole in the seabed. So from the surface, they could see that there is like a hole in the seabed, right? Like a dark spot, right? And we don't know what it is. It might be an entrance to the cave. It might be some shallow hole. We don't know. So everybody got excited even more and said, okay, let's go there. Let's explore that, right? Let's just figure out, what it is, right? And so we sailed, and then we arrived in the afternoon to that spot, and we're getting ready for an afternoon dive. Nothing strange, serene, beautiful. No wind, and sun was going down, so it's kind of like a really beautiful scenery if you can visualize it. And what happened was that four people said, okay, we are going to dive. I said that I'm not diving because I have very limited body fat, and I very often get cold. So I sometimes don't go to these afternoon or kind of night dives. So I said I'm not diving. Of course, my friend who was not diver is not diving, and also captain said that he needs to go to bed because captain always wakes up in the morning, and so imagine there are like the four people are diving, three are staying, so with the captain was eight of us, and then one person who later died said, okay, well, I will just join snorkeling. So four people went scuba diving to explore this hole, which was, I don't know, 20 meters maybe from the boat. But from the boat, you couldn't see it, but we knew that it's somewhere there, right? So they said they will go explore it. And then this one guy joined them snorkeling on the surface. They left. After maybe 10 minutes or so, the snorkeler came back and said, oh my God, it's a cave. They went down and they didn't come back for some time. If it was just a shallow hole in the seabed, they would just get in and and come out immediately. So he basically said, I need to join them. So he took all his equipment and kind of in a rush and said, I'm going to join. And for me, it was like, oh yeah, sure, he's gonna join them. Even though, as you know, scuba diving rules, we shouldn't dive alone. I mean, there is a buddy system for safety, but as he said, I'm gonna join them. I kind of even didn't think it's a strange thing because they were like just somewhere there, next to the boat. Anyway, he leaves, and then another 40 minutes of calm, and that you can call calm before the storm because. This four people came back to the boat, and they were all kind of animated, and they were climbing, the ladder, and they were saying, "Oh, it's a cave. We nearly got lost. It's complicated. It's a cave system. We should have explored more." Cave diving instructor, who was one of them, said, "Absolutely not. That's why I turn around because it's a complex cave system. Nobody has equipment. Nobody has experience except for this for him, right?" And let's now take a pause. many people scuba dive, right, around the world, and recreational scuba diving is, is pretty kind of normal activity. I mean, anybody can really do that. Cave diving is very different. Cave diving is I don't know, what would you say? You can say hiking, and this can mean in the hills of Cornwall, right? Or you can say hiking, and it's to Mount Everest, right? So it's still hiking, but it's two very different things. So scuba diving is like next level, different training, different equipment, different expertise, right? So let's come back to the boat. These four people came back and started discussing, and then I say, where is Michael? Where is our friend? Huh? And they all go like, oh, we haven't seen him. And that's when it hit us that we thought, I mean, we didn't know, but it hit us that he must have, when they went down and then they explored the cave, came back, and then they continued to dive in the shallow bay because they decided underwater that this is not really right thing to do to explore it. Later, from the scuba diving computers, it was discovered that he missed them by 4 minutes. So, but we didn't know that, right? So, but now we suspected he's in the cave. We started searching for him, couldn't find him, and that's how the whole kind of, I would say, yeah, I mean, tragic event or a series of events started.
It's unbelievable that he missed them by 4 minutes, because those 4 minutes could have changed everything. But it's good to note as well, you were talking about the difference between snorkeling and scuba diving. I've been scuba diving before, but there is obviously a major difference. So what I want to do now is I want you to, I mean, you said the beginning of the series of events. I want you to now explain what happened next.
Right. So, of course, now I have to be careful, because if I say a lot, then nobody reads the book, right? So how do I navigate through that? And because it was a powerful story, and it's even now, it's 20 plus years later. I mean, it's still very vivid in my mind. So I can really, talk about it for hours. But but let's give listeners a bit of a flavor, like what happened. So it was, by that time it was dark. We were in a remote place somewhere in Croatia, and we knew that our friend is most likely inside of the complex cave system underwater, and he must be running out of air. So we said, okay, let's go down, let's search for him, right? And the only person who had cave diving experience was one of us, cave diving and scuba diving instructor. And then I said, I'll go with you. He basically said, no way, you can't go with me inside of the cave. You'll be liability, because I was a averagely experienced scuba diver, but not a cave diver. So at the end, we decided, okay, I will stay on the surface, next to the hull with another spare tank, with air, so that if they surface and they need to breathe on the surface to finish some decompression stops, I mean, for those who are listening, divers, they understand decompression, because if you stay longer underwater in a certain depth, then you cannot just go up straight. I mean, you need to do certain stops and wait in a certain depth, so you just can't surface right away. It's very dangerous, right? So anyway, so we decided that we went down. My friend went down to search for Michael, and I was waiting for 40 minutes, basically laying on top of the hull, slowly breathing and really like contemplating, like what's going to happen. Like, do we find him? All kind of crazy situation. He came back. He couldn't find him. Then we had to call a Coast Guard, because that was obvious that we couldn't do anything more. We called a Croatian Coast Guard. They said they will come in the morning. Nothing to do. So as you can imagine, on the boat we had like sleepless night of discussing and contemplating and arguing, and also very sad, because it was very likely that our friend got lost and by now run out of air, right? Next day morning, Coast Guard comes, or police, with two Navy divers. They listen to the story. they said, "Okay, we'll go down and find your friend." And to our horror, what we saw is that they are preparing their equipment, but their equipment wasn't a cave diving equipment. For cave diving, you usually have like twin tanks, double computers. You have lines, so you can find your way back, and they had none of it. They seem to have been experienced divers. We tried to convince them, guys, no, this is very dangerous. I mean, you seem not to have any experience with this type of environment. I mean, don't go there. And they kind of, their commander just kind of brushed it off and said, no, we know what we're doing. We have experienced people here, so just don't worry about it. Off they went. After 45 minutes or so, one of them surfaces clearly in a distress, and the other didn't come back. So now there are two people in the cave. One, our friend from the day before, and a Croatian Navy diver. And that's where it was like, oh my God, like what's this? Like what's happening? And they tell us, okay, we need to investigate this, so you should go to the police station. And that's where we left. So we left and we didn't know, I mean, presumably there were two people now in the cave and very likely dead. But of course, back then we didn't know what exactly is happening.
And then obviously this is the thing, because we want to talk about your book, which is the whole story. But I want to obviously learn about yourself and what you went through next without ruining the book. So is there anything that you can explain about what happened next?
Well, I think what happened next was that at the beginning it was just normal investigation. Obviously, there were people missing, and so we went to the police station and individually were giving testimonies. But then I think there was this sudden moment when the atmosphere changed, and the police became, I would say, more aggressive, but we didn't know what's going on. And then they took me and this friend who was non-diver, and we didn't know whether other people also did that, but we were taken to a polygraph test, to the lie detector. That already was quite strange, but anyway, I kind of thought, oh, that's probably part of the investigation. And that was when, during this test, police basically said, and do you know it was a murder? And do you know that we found your friend with his knife stuck into his chest, with his diving knife? Did you do it? Right? So imagine what is one's reaction, when you learn that, they found your friend, in that moment, and then this shocking news that he had his knife, in the chest. So, cut the long story short, we were thrown into custody, suspected of murder. So two of us from the boat, the rest basically had to stay in Croatia and stay on the boat until the investigation is finished. And that's how I ended up in a jail, which was, I must say, tragic event. Two people died, and one of them being my close friends. And then second was like, oh my God, like I am in a foreign country. I don't understand 100% like what people talk about. I could understand a little bit of the language because it's similar to my native language, but I couldn't understand 100%. And I'm suspected of murder. There is a Croatian Navy diver who died, and it looks like that they are determined to prove that we committed that crime, which was completely insane, right? But on the other hand, of course, if they found our friend with his knife in the chest, then of course there is a reason, I think, to do the investigation. But when I ended up in custody and was thinking, well, what if now they really manage to even make up the evidence, because we couldn't have done it. I mean, later it was clear that we couldn't. It was not possible. Like from a medicinal from diving medicine and physics point of view, it wasn't possible. And later it was discussed, so they never actually even accused us formally. But yeah, so imagine I was now in the custody with three other people in the cell who were waiting for what happens to them. And next day morning, newspaper arrives. So in Croatia, you can get newspaper into the cell, and we were on the front page. Our boat is on the front page, and it says two Czech homosexuals killed their friend and threw him in the cave, and in the rescue operation, a hero, a Navy diver died, right? And I read it and I go like, oh, we are in a proper trouble here.
Obviously, it's absolutely terrible that not only you lost your friend, but a Navy diver died as well in the events of trying to rescue him. And you've explained very briefly, obviously, that it wasn't murder. And we don't have to go into it because I don't want to ruin the book, but obviously wasn't murder. What actually happened? What was it with your friend?
Oh, so well, after all this investigation, what became clear is that he got lost in the cave. You could see it in his dive computer time and depth. So you cannot see like what he was doing, but it's possible to see that he was swimming at a certain depth, which actually was the depth of the ceiling of the cave. Yeah? So the depth of the cave was, I think, the ceiling of the cave was in. Let's just describe it a little bit. So a water surface, 10-meter depth. Here is the entrance, right? At 10-meter depth, and there's a chimney, measure underwater chimney going down vertically to 22 meters. Mm-hmm. And at 22 meters, this chimney spreads into different corridors, and then it becomes an underwater kind of complex cave system, right? So he was basically, and can you imagine the situation, right? I mean, he was swimming, frantically trying to find the exit, and it was only one exit, that chimney. But what happens in these underwater caves is that there is a silt or sand on the bottom, but there is also sand on the ceiling, because nobody ever goes there. So there is like really very fine sand, which is usually stuck to the ceiling. So what happens is that if you swim forward, you have usually very good visibility because nobody was in the cave before, and you see very clearly, where are you going, with your light. But your bubbles which you exhale, they basically disturb the ceiling, disturb the silt which is on the ceiling, and that sand or silt starts falling like a snow. He couldn't find the exit. He couldn't find this exit from the cave. He was swimming for 40 plus minutes until he exhausted his air supply. And at the moment where basically his air supply was running out, he committed suicide by his own knife. That's basically the only option which could ever happen. And that also later during the investigation came out. But of course, there was quite some story of how this evolved, if since the moment where you go back into, okay, we found ourselves in custody, mm-hmm. and until the moment when everything was kind of cleared, and that was another, I mean, I wouldn't call it adventure. I mean, looking back, in the hindsight, it was a profound experience, but yeah, at the moment when I woke up in the first morning in the jail, I definitely wasn't sure like what's going to happen next.
Mm. Well, you said it. You thought that there was a potential that they would find everything they possibly could to end up keeping you in prison.
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, of course, one reason was that kind of justified reason, right? I mean, they claimed that they found our diver with his knife in the chest, but but this would most likely end up as an accident. But because there was a Croatian Navy diver involved who also died, we're very sad because actually that was avoidable. I mean, our friend, if you really kind of without any emotions try to think about it, right? Is our friend basically made a mistake. He went somewhere where he should have been. He went alone, and by fate, very low probability, event, he ended up in the cave. But it was his mistake, his kind of decision. Huh? I mean, with the Croatian Navy diver, we clearly we were in shock when we saw them preparing, and we told them, like, guys, this is dangerous. I mean, you don't seem to have the right equipment, right? So that, I think, was avoidable. So it was very, very sad, right? So I would say, yeah. So it was somehow justified. So I understand why the police and whole media and everybody was like, oh no, we need to definitely make sure that who are responsible for it will be somehow punished.
So then I just want to ask then, with regards to yourself, how have you, obviously you've lost your friend, obviously it was suicide in the end, but you've lost your friend, unfortunately. You've also been trialed nearly for murder, you've been put in jail, you've gone through all of this. How were you able to get through all of that and overcome it?
Mm. Well, you asked me at the beginning what does it mean to me when I hear I got back up, right? I mean, and I think now we are really getting into the part of the story which might be relevant. So uh, we were for 3 days at the police station, like 2 nights sleeping at the police station on the floor. We before we got into the custody. I didn't have my toothbrush with me, and can you imagine not brushing teeth for 3 days? This is like, imagine this, still like the crazy situation, like life changing situation, and then I was like, and I'm really bothered by not being able to brush my teeth. Like it was really like this kind of moment which I remember. So when I came to the custody, I was so exhausted. I fell to sleep. Immediately next day morning, I see the newspaper. And all this, and I was really desperate. I was like, not only my friend is dead, but now, like, what's gonna happen, right? So I really, like, I wasn't sure, like, how I would handle it, right? But then what happened was that I went to see, like a custody psychologist or somebody, right? And then and he asked me how I'm doing and what do I need, and I said, oh, I would really like to get a toothbrush and toothpaste, because I am so. And then, oh, he gave me the toothbrush and toothpaste, and then I brushed my teeth, and somehow world got brighter, or I don't know how to how to properly describe it. So I brushed my teeth. I slept, that night, quite well for some reason. And and I remember the next day I woke up and I go like, no, uh, I will fight for the freedom. I will make sure anything, and I'm pretty determined as a person, I mean, in business and in whatever. But I just told myself, I will do everything in my power, to figure out, how to prove that we are innocent, how not to be convicted. Now, of course, is it going to happen or not? Is the result guaranteed? No, I mean, I don't know, right? But I remember, very vividly that, that second day, I asked also somebody for a pencil and paper, and I started writing down, like, what happened, the whole, lineup of events, the timeline, if you like, and also I started writing, like, any detail, anything which would basically, what would be the reason, like, how this could have happened, and what would be the arguments, that we couldn't have done it, right? Because, and that, I think, what happened were two things, right? First of all, from grief of my friend is lost. And another one who I invited to the trip last minute is, somewhere in the custody. I didn't know where, but somewhere in the custody with me. That kind of grief went into action, right? Like, okay, I need to focus now on, to save myself, right? So somehow it was pushed back into my mind, the whole story of, what happened, and my mind started focusing. Okay, how do I what do I do in order to, like, stay sane in the jail, and figure out, how to convince the authorities that we couldn't have done it. So, and from that moment, I guess, um, yeah, there were ups and downs, obviously. I mean, there was like, okay, this is now looking really good. Perhaps they will, transfer us to Czech Republic, and investigation will continue there. Next day, no chance, never gonna happen. This is absolutely impossible. And la la la. So there is a definite roller coaster. Then my girlfriend comes for a visit. I want to pretend that I'm okay, but then when she arrives, I broke into tears, and so there are many things, I think, which happened, which was, but I would say that, yeah, this moment where my mind shifted from, it is tragedy, but now I can't change it. That happened already. How do I actually make sure to figure out how to survive all this?
That's a really interesting point because it's exactly what we said at the beginning, and you said it as well with regards to reacting to something when you can't change a situation that's completely out of your control. Yes, we all feel emotions, so we have to ride our emotions. We have to feel them, whatever they may be, especially if that's bursting into tears and letting it out. But it's really interesting when you said that your mind then shifted to, okay, this is what has happened. Now, how do I fight for myself, but how do I react to the situation? And do you think then that's how you've been since the whole incident? It's how you've reacted to what was completely out of your control, a tragedy which unfortunately happened, but you've now been able to fight for your freedom, which you have, but the way you've reacted is, you know, the person that's made you today.
Mm. Well, what comes to mind when you say that, I think, is the following. So, before the incident, as I told you, I mean, I was member of the board of the large international company. I was managing team of, I think, 80 people back then. I don't remember exactly. So, and always in the business, I mean, I was telling my people, uh, uh, two things. We will eat what we are cooking. Right? Was one kind of kind of sentence I came up with. The meal which we will be having, later today, it depends on what we are cooking. So what kind of ingredients we bring in, and all this. So we are in charge of certain things, right? And then so then we can influence the outcome, right? So that was one. And second was, yeah, what was that? Yeah, so I was always irritated by people. Basically, it's raining, right? I mean, you are in UK, right? So you're in UK. It's raining often, right? In Bali now, it's rainy season, so it's raining very often. And some people go like, "Oh, it's raining again," and and I was, and I had this idea, back then, right? Even like without any work or studying or whatever, I had this idea, what's the point? I mean, raining, you cannot influence. I mean, it's raining. So, if rain doesn't care if I'm happy or if I'm sad about it or if I'm angry about it, I mean, the rain is basically just falling, and that's it, right? So it depends on me how I react. And it's fascinating that some people are super happy, like little kids, they would be out, jumping in the puddles, and whatnot, right? And then some of us adults go like, oh my God, it's raining. So I was giving this example, to people when they were like complaining, if you like, about something which was out of their control, right? But Talia, this experience in Croatia, I feel made made me really experience it like raw. So because it's easy to talk about rain, yeah, because it kind of doesn't matter, it's not. it's not a life-changing situation. It's not so. So it's kind of easy to say, okay, I can. But what happened to me, I think, was that I I kind of realized that even in a crisis situation, even in a situation which is out of the world, I could focus my mind. I could focus my, I can manage my emotions to an extent, right? And I could kind of, manage that situation. And manage maybe is a wrong word, like really, like I can feel what's happening, and then kind of, focus my energy on what makes a difference rather than like complaining or you being sad or whatever it is about what happened. So, and and I think it's kind of easy to say, oh, if I was in a crisis situation, if I was lost in the mountains, running out of water, I would manage, and it's easy to kind of talk about this, and maybe go for a, survival course or something, right? But until we experience it, we don't know, right? And for me, coming back to your question with kind of long story, is that I really thought like, wow, later, I mean, reflecting on that, yeah, I thought like, wow, so actually, you found yourself in a crazy, life changing survival situation, and you were able to handle it. Now, whatever happens, it's okay. Like you see what I mean. So that it's kind of weird, but whatever happens, I will be able to handle it, right? And what happens is now is that sometimes my friend, there is something happening. I don't know, a client is really complaining and angry, that we didn't deliver, what we're supposed to deliver, and of course, there's a serious, problem which in the business which we need to solve. But then, and I'm just usually calm, and some of my colleagues say, "Oh, what? How can you do that?" And now they know, right? Now, because some of these, it's relative, right? And I mean, some of your guests in the podcast in the past, you see what they went through, right? And what you went through, right? All of a sudden, these previous problems, are kind of like super small, right? And we are able to kind of like just, so I think that's, yeah, maybe I'm kind of going left, right, and center, but that's I think what is in my mind on this.
You're not going left, right, and center because I completely agree with you. It unfortunately, when we go through these kind of things, and I wish no one would have to go through these kind of things, but unfortunately, there is a fortunate side of it in a way if you look at it, that you then learn about yourself, that no matter what life throws at you, you're going to be okay. However big, however small the problem or the challenge or the task or whatever it might be, you're going to be okay because you've been able to get through whatever it was, however dark, however traumatic it was. You got through that, you survived that, you're going to be okay. And I think that's something really powerful to hold on to in life. Really powerful. No matter if it's annoying clients that send you annoying emails, or if it's obviously something a lot more, a lot more traumatic and a lot darker, that you are going to be okay. I also just wanted to touch upon what you said about the rain, because you're right. That's a mindset thing when it is raining, because it rains all the time in London. But it is a mindset thing of when it's raining, you get two kinds of people. You get people that moan and bring it into their day, and then the whole day is ruined. Or you get people that see it, but the rain is out of all of our control. But then how do we just get on with our day, our lives, even find the beauty or the happiness or the light in it, and get on with the day? One more thing is when you spoke about the food. I really like that, actually. I've never heard someone explain it in that kind of way. You're right. Whatever you're cooking, the ingredients you are bringing to the table, I think we've said it as well. You can't control a lot of things in life, but you can control some things. And you can control the ingredients you're bringing into the table to cook, to eat, and then to enjoy. So whatever you are bringing into your life is only going to manifest into your current present moment and what's going to happen next.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, if you allow, but then one more thing comes to mind is that, and I didn't know it back then. Yeah, and then goes back to when I said my childhood was relatively peaceful and kind of like friendly and like enjoyable. Uh, only later and then what happened to me in Croatia. Then later our son was born 7 weeks earlier, and then we didn't know for 1 month whether he's going to survive or not. Yeah? So it was really going to a stressful, crazy experience, right? Maybe for another podcast. Uh, so, but then somehow I was thinking, oh yeah, I can manage. And now it sounds a bit, it sounds a bit maybe arrogant or whatever. But what I didn't realize is that my parents in my childhood gave me some kind of background, which I think to some extent, provided me with this peace of mind and with this ability to deal with situation. And later in life only I learned that, you know, it's not like this for everybody. For example, if you listen to Gabor Mate or or some people like that, I mean, then you realize if there is a child trauma and some serious trauma, is really damaging. It can be damaging to the people in a way that, for example, I cannot imagine. And then of course it influences their ability to handle crisis situation, right? So I just want to be careful on saying, oh yeah, this is all under, it's all kind of mind, it's all under control. I think we have some kind of baggage, and or baggage maybe is the wrong word, but whatever we experienced, before, it might influence our ability to handle, this kind of stuff, I guess.
No, I respect that. I do. And look, everyone's past, everyone's childhood is all very different. We've all of us have gone through very different things, and they do shape us into the people we are today, and we continue to become. And everyone handles situations very, very differently. They feel emotions very differently. They express emotions very differently, of course. But I think the overarching message is that no matter what you have been through, people are strong inside. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's only when you go through these things you see the strength that you never realize you actually had. People are strong inside no matter what they've been through. Yes, some people might be stronger than others, but everyone is strong inside, and everyone does have their own tools and capabilities to get through things. And I think
Right.
that's a really powerful and important point to note. Um, and then just before we do wrap up, I just want to ask, I mean, you've said quite a lot, and I think I kind of know the answers, but if you could give someone, I'm like, if you could give someone some advice, but you've given some great advice, but if you could give someone some advice that is going through a really dark time at the moment, um, I mean, obviously, it can be anything, and I know that's a very big question, but what is something that you would say to them?
Mm. Yeah, I would say, um, breathe. Uh, breathing in a certain way and now it sounds kind of cliche, but breathing in a certain way is very powerful. Later, I became freediving instructor. So as one of my hobbies, I teach freediving, and I learned how powerful is the breath. So I think breathing in a certain way, calming down our nervous system, is really powerful. It will not change the situation. It will not change what's happening, but it will change our microcosm, which is inside. So I think that's what comes one. Second thing I would say, go out to the nature. Like, don't be stuck at home with the little, or big problem. Go for a walk, into the forest, on the beach or wherever you are, right? And that is also kind of bringing different perspective. For me, exercise always helps. If I have some dark, thoughts, so I would exercise. So these are some like very simple in a way tools, which doesn't cost anything, which actually we are able then to influence our mind. And the last thing which comes to mind is like talk to your friends or talk to somebody who you respect, and that always helped me. But as you can see, probably I'm quite an extroverted kind of person, so I have no problem in talking to people, but I think what works for me is to share with some trusted friends and say, look, like openly, put it on the table. Like, listen, I'm struggling. I don't know how to handle this. I mean, I really think I'm going to. What would you say?
Yeah.
Just tell me, yeah. And then it brings it to the perspective. I think you share. Uh, Also, like getting it out of the chest, I think is somehow important. So I think this will be a couple of things which come to mind. I mean, last thing which I do, but my daughter says, "Dad, you're a robot," so don't tell anybody what to do because you are a robot. I mean, you are, like you have organizing things, So I do a mind maps, whenever there is something too complex to deal with, and I cannot just, think it through. I find myself struggling, I would do a mind map, which is basically this is the topic, put it on a piece of paper and somehow go like, okay, okay. I'm kind of like, I spotted some problems, I can, some of it I can handle, some of it I cannot, but at least I know. So that's probably one last thing which I would, think about.
I like that one, the mind map. I'm gonna start using that. I'm gonna start using that one. But yeah. But I like all of that advice, and you're right, all of it in its own way, all of it, especially the sharing, because we don't realize that bottling up our feelings, bottling up our thoughts is actually affecting us and destroying us internally. And it's hard to share, don't get me wrong. It can be very, very hard to share anything that's going on. But
Yeah. Yeah.
when you do share and you get it out, it does help you get out your mind, and help people can help you through things. People can help you understand things. People can just having someone being there, just even to listen, can really, really help you. So I agree with all of it. So yeah, it's perfect. And if anyone does want to find your book, where can they find it?
Um, Oh, one more thing comes to mind actually, and that is if you want to do crazy things, prepare a little bit. I mean, that sounds like so boring, huh? But but prepare. Like get some training. It's not possible to. It's very stupid, I think. To do crazy things. Without proper training and equipment. And without local knowledge. This mountain. Okay, how do we get there? So I think that would be one other thing which comes to mind, and I kind of forgot to say that. So oh yeah, so. Uh, yeah, the book is called The Cave by Dan Frolec. It's now across UK. It should be in all the good bookstores, and it's of course on Amazon as a either paperback or Kindle. So yeah, so if you search for The Cave by Dan Frolec, it will come up, and yeah, I'm looking forward to hear back of what people think. I mean, so far I have some crazy feedback. I had a launch here in Bali with with like 60 people in a co-working center and a kind of book club and then some people got the book and they said, damn you, I went back to 3 a.m. I couldn't stop it. It's quite an easy read. I mean, I'm not a native speaker, as you can hear, right? So it's I can't really use any sophisticated English, right? So definitely don't expect Shakespeare, in there. But it's quite a page turner, they say, So I don't know. I mean, I really just wrote it because it was in me. I would say just maybe 1 year ago, I'm not a writer. Well, now I guess I am. It kind of feels weird, but so yeah, yeah, I'll be interested to hear from people what they think because it's another adventure to write a book and publish it and just put it out there. So yeah, that's where you can find me and I have a website called danfrolec.com. So if anybody wants to see, there is a blog and there are some more adventures about how we shipwrecked in Sumba, one of the remote islands of Indonesia, for example. And then we found us on a remote beach, no signal, no reception, and with like 10 guys and what to do. So yeah, there's more adventure stories, there. So if people are interested, maybe they can have a look.
Yeah, no, perfect. And I love an adventure story. And you're right though about if you're gonna go out into the mountains or into the ocean, or if you're gonna do something like that. I rock climb, so 100%. You have to be ready. You have to have your equipment. You have to be sure because out there is out there, for me, it's the mountains. Out there in the mountains are some of the best, most magical places I've ever been to in my life.
Mm.
But also the scariest. And you are sometimes faced with it. You can see how it can be a life or death situation sometimes.
Yeah.
But if you're as prepared as you possibly can be, then then you're already a step ahead. So no, I agree. You have to be very prepared when you do these kind of things.
Yeah, yeah. As much as you can, because sometimes, as we, coming back to the beginning, sometimes things happen, which are not under control. But of course, if you have, right equipment or tools, it helps at least. I guess.
It does. It helps. So is there anything else that you'd like to share today?
I really enjoyed talking to you. So thank you very much. I think I already overshared. So 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 yeah, no, that's great. I really enjoyed the conversation, and if people can find my book and or enjoy this podcast, with you, it's fantastic. And whatever small thing we can do to inspire other people, into uh, move a little bit in their life, or unstuck themselves from something, or address a situation which is bothering them. I mean, whatever inspiration I always find interesting from others. So if this conversation inspires other people, I'll be great. I'm grateful.
Amazing. It 100% will. It's inspired me, so it definitely will. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Life will knock us down, sometimes hard, and sometimes more than once. And when it feels impossible, know that your story isn't over yet. Sometimes when everything is falling apart, it's really falling into place. You have the power to rise, to heal, to make magic, and to evolve. And you have the power inside you. We all do. You have the power to get back up.